Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the last piece of metal float into his ship's cargo bay. Another day, another pile of space junk to sort through and sell. It wasn't the most exciting job in the galaxy, but it paid the bills and kept him flying among the stars. His crew gathered around him on the deck of his salvage ship. There was Grix, a short blue alien with 4 arms who was great at fixing things. Next to him stood Valox, a tall, gray creature with big black eyes who could spot valuable metals from miles away. Behind them, Xena clicked her claws together excitedly. She looked like a giant insect but was the best pilot Marcus had ever seen. "Captain," Grix said with a wide grin showing sharp teeth. "We found something special in today's haul." Marcus raised an eyebrow. His crew didn't usually get this excited about scrap metal. What kind of special? The 3 aliens looked at each other and started laughing. Valox's large eyes sparkled with amusement. "You'll love this, human. We found you a pet." "A pet?" Marcus frowned. He'd never wanted a pet, especially not one found floating in space debris. Xena buzzed with laughter. "Not just any pet. We found you a queen." They led him deeper into the cargo bay, past piles of twisted metal and broken ship parts. In the far corner, behind a stack of damaged containers, Marcus saw her. She sat on the cold floor with her back against the wall. At first, Marcus thought she might be a statue. Her skin looked like it was made of pale crystal, with faint lines of silver running through it like veins. She was tall, probably 6 feet, with a thin but strong build. 2 large wings spread from her back, but they were broken. Pieces of wing membrane hung loose, and several of the wing bones were clearly snapped. Her hair was long and white, covering most of her face. She wore simple gray clothes that looked like prison uniforms. She didn't move when they approached. She didn't even look up. "This," Grix said proudly, "is a Zephyrian. And not just any Zephyrian. This one used to be their queen. They are. Marcus had heard of Zephyrians. They were warrior people from a planet far away. Beautiful, proud, and fierce in battle. Their homeworld had been destroyed in some war a few years back. He'd heard that all of them had died. "Her name was something long and complicated," Valox said, waving a hand. "The point is, she's the last of her kind, and she's completely broken. Look at her." Xena clicked excitedly. "She hasn't spoken in months. Hasn't eaten unless forced to. The traders who had her were going to throw her out an airlock. But we thought you might want her. You humans like collecting strange things, right?" Marcus stared at the 3 aliens. They were his crew, his friends, but sometimes he didn't understand them at all. "You want me to take her as a pet? Why not?" Grix shrugged, with all 4 shoulders. "She was a queen once. Now she's nothing. Might be fun to have royal decoration for your ship. Think of how impressed people will be," Valox added. "A human with his own Zephyrian queen. Even if she's broken, she's still exotic." Marcus looked at the broken woman again. She still hadn't moved. He couldn't even tell if she was breathing. Something about the way she sat there, so still and empty, made his chest feel tight. "What happened to her?" he asked quietly. "Same thing that happened to all of them," Xena said. "Her planet got blown up. Her people all died. She got captured and passed around like a trophy. Now she's here." Marcus walked closer. Up close, he could see that the silver lines in her skin were actually scars. Old ones. Her wings had been beautiful once, he could tell. Now they looked like torn sails after a storm. "Has anyone tried to help her?" His crew laughed again. "Help her do what?" Grix asked. "She's the last one. Her species is gone. Her kingdom is gone. She's got nothing left to live for. So we thought you might want her, Valok said. You're always talking about second chances and helping people. Here's your chance to help a real queen. The way they said it made Marcus angry. They weren't offering him a chance to help. They were offering him a broken toy and calling it kindness. He knelt down in front of the Zephyrian woman. This close, he could see her breathing. Her eyes were closed, but tears had dried on her crystal cheeks. "Ma'am?" he said softly. She didn't respond. "My name is Marcus. These are my crew members. They tell me you've been through a lot." Still nothing. Marcus looked back at his crew, then at her again. "I'd like to offer you a place on my ship. Not as a pet or decoration. Just as someone who deserves a safe place to heal." The woman's eyes opened slowly. They were silver, like her scars, but duller. Like metal that had lost its shine. "I don't know what you've been told about humans," Marcus continued. "But I believe everyone deserves a second chance. That includes you." She stared at him for a long moment, then closed her eyes again. Marcus stood up and turned to his crew. "Prepare quarters for her. Make sure she has everything she needs." "So, Captain," Grick said, confused. "She's not going to thank you. She probably won't even talk to you. She's broken." "Then I guess she'll have time to heal," Marcus said firmly. "And her name isn't she or it or pet. What is your name?" he asked, looking down at her. The woman didn't answer. "When you're ready," Marcus said gently. "I'd like to know what to call you." He left her there with instructions for his crew to treat her with respect. As he walked away, he heard Xena whisper, "Humans are so weird." Later that night, Marcus checked on their new guest. She was in the quarters they'd prepared, sitting by the window and looking out at the stars. She still hadn't spoken, but she was sitting up straighter. When she heard him at the door, she turned. For just a moment, he saw something in those silver eyes that hadn't been there before. Hope. 3 weeks passed on Marcus's ship, and the Zephyrian woman still hadn't spoken. But Marcus noticed small changes. She ate the food they brought her, without being forced. She walked around her quarters instead of just sitting. Sometimes he caught her looking out the windows at the stars, with something that wasn't quite sadness. Marcus spent his free time learning about Zephyrians. He read old files and watched news reports about their culture. He learned that their wings weren't just for flying. They were part of how they expressed emotions and communicated. He learned that the silver lines in their skin would glow when they were happy or excited. He learned that their real names were long and musical, full of meaning. Most importantly, he learned that Zephyrians healed better in certain kinds of light. He spent 2 days reprogramming the lights in her quarters to match the spectrum of her dead home sun. The first time the new lights came on, he heard something from her room that made him stop in the hallway. She was crying. But they weren't the hopeless tears he'd seen before. These sounded different. Like maybe something inside her was finally starting to unfreeze. Grix complained that Marcus was wasting time and money on her. "She's just going to sit there forever, Captain. You can't fix what's completely broken." "She's not broken," Marcus said. "She's hurt. There's a difference." "And, what difference?" Valox asked. "She still doesn't talk, doesn't help, doesn't do anything." Marcus was about to answer when alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Xena's voice came over the intercom, clicking with panic. "Captain, 3 ships closing fast." Marcus ran to the bridge. Through the main window, he could see 3 dark ships approaching quickly. They had the jagged design of pirate vessels. "Weapons?" Marcus asked. "Armed and powering up," Xena reported. "They want our cargo." "How long until they're in firing range?" 2 minutes. Marcus looked around his bridge. His crew was good, but they were salvage workers, not fighters. They had some weapons, but nothing compared to what the pirates were carrying. Options? He asked. Run, Grix said immediately. We can't fight 3 ships. We can't outrun them either, Valox pointed out. They're faster than us. Marcus was about to order them to try anyway, when a voice spoke behind him. You could surrender. Everyone turned. The Zephyrian woman stood in the doorway of the bridge. It was the first time she'd left her quarters since coming aboard. It was also the first time any of them had heard her voice. Her voice was soft but clear, with a musical accent. Even speaking just 3 words, she sounded like someone who was used to being listened to. That's not really an option, Marcus said gently. Pirates don't usually let witnesses live. She stepped onto the bridge. Up close, Marcus could see that the silver lines in her skin were a little brighter than before. Not much, but enough to notice. How many crew on each ship? She asked. Zena's eyes went wide. Scanning now. First ship has 12 heat signatures. Second ship has 15. Third ship has 21. The woman nodded slowly. She walked to the tactical display and studied it. Her fingers moved over the controls like she'd used them before. Their formation is standard pirate attack pattern, she said quietly. Designed to prevent escape, not to fight an actual battle. Do you know about space combat? Marcus asked. She looked at him. For a moment, something flickered in her silver eyes. I was a queen, she said. I led fleets in battle for 30 years. Marcus felt his heart skip. Could you? Would you help us? She stared at the tactical display. You would trust me with your crew's lives? I trust you with mine, Marcus said without hesitation. The woman was quiet for several seconds. Around them, the alarm continued to blare. The pirate ships were getting closer. 90 seconds to weapons range, Zena reported. What are your orders? The woman asked Marcus. Marcus looked around at his crew. Grix was staring at the woman like she'd grown a second head. Valox's large eyes were wider than usual. Zena had stopped clicking entirely. What do you think we should do? Marcus asked her. She turned to the controls. Zena, bring us about 30 degrees to port. Grix, transfer all power from life support to engines. Valox, charge our weapons but don't target anything yet. Wait, Grix said. Who put her in charge? I did, Marcus said firmly. Do what she says. The crew looked confused, but they followed orders. The ship turned and picked up speed. What's the plan? The woman's fingers flew over the tactical controls. They think we're prey. Prey runs in a straight line. Predators follow. But we're not going to run. On the screen, the 3 pirate ships adjusted course to follow them, just as she'd predicted. Now, Zena, full stop and turn around. Face them directly. That's suicide, Valox whispered. No, the woman said. That's psychology. Prey doesn't turn around and face predators. They're confused now. Grix, transfer power from engines to shields. Valox, target the lead ship's engines only. The pirates had spread out in a hunting formation, but when Marcus's ship suddenly stopped and turned to face them, their perfect formation became a problem. They were too far apart to support each other properly. Fire, the woman said, calmly. Valox fired. Their weapons hit the lead pirate ship's engines perfectly. The ship spun out of control. Zena, hard starboard. Use the damaged ship as cover. Valox, target the second ship's weapons. For the next 10 minutes, the woman commanded the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra. She turned their small salvage ship into a dancing fighter. Always moving. Always one step ahead of the pirates. She used their own size and numbers against them. When it was over, one pirate ship was drifting dead in space. The other 2 were running away as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. Marcus's crew stood in shocked silence. Well, the woman said quietly, that was Easier than I expected. Easier? Grix squeaked. She almost smiled. Almost. You should see what real space combat looks like. Marcus walked over to her. Thank you. You saved us. She looked at him strangely. You thanked me. Of course I thanked you. You just saved all our lives. No one has thanked me for anything in a very long time. Then people have been forgetting their manners, Marcus said. What should I call you? I'd like to know your name. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Lyrathes. My name is Lyrathes. Thank you, Lyrathes, Marcus said, for everything. For the first time since he'd found her, the silver lines in her skin glowed just a little bit brighter. Word spread quickly through the galaxy's trade networks. A human salvage captain had a Zephyrian queen on his crew. Not as a slave or decoration, but as his tactical officer. The story grew with each telling, becoming legend. Marcus found this out when they docked at Haven Station 3 months later. The station master, an elderly Corvan with purple skin, greeted them personally. Captain Chen, the station master said, Is it true you have the last Zephyrian serving as your officer? She's not serving me, Marcus corrected. We're partners. The station master looked confused but nodded. There are others here who wish to speak with you. Others who have fallen from grace. Marcus didn't understand until he saw them waiting in the station's common area. A tall reptilian man in worn military clothes sat at one table, General Kess, according to Lyrathes, who had led the Saurian resistance before his planet surrendered. At another table sat a small, furry creature Marcus recognized as former Ambassador Flick, exiled from her homeworld for speaking against corruption. There were a dozen others. All of them had one thing in common. They had lost everything. What do they want? Marcus asked Lyrathes. She studied the gathered beings. Purpose, she said simply. They've heard that you give people second chances. Over the following weeks, Marcus's small salvage crew grew. General Kess brought military discipline and combat experience. Ambassador Flick had connections throughout diplomatic circles. Others brought their own skills: engineering, medicine, navigation, languages. Lyrathes became the bridge between Marcus's human optimism and the newcomer's alien perspectives. She translated not just languages, but cultures and customs. She helped Marcus understand why a proud Corvan warrior couldn't accept charity, but would work for honest pay. She explained why the Tenthary engineer needed to work alone, and why the Rillan medic required specific foods to function. You're building something, she told Marcus one evening, as they watched their expanded crew working together on the ship's main deck. I don't think you realize how unusual this is. What do you mean? Lyrathes pointed to where General Kess was teaching Grix advanced combat techniques, while Ambassador Flick helped Valox with some complicated trade calculations. In most of the galaxy, different species work together only when they have to. They don't trust each other. They don't share knowledge. But look at them. Marcus looked. She was right. His crew didn't just work together. They had become friends. They shared meals, told stories about their homeworlds, helped each other with personal problems. You did this, Lyrathes said. Your human way of treating people as equals regardless of what they are or where they came from. It's spreading. Marcus felt his face grow warm. I just treat people the way I'd want to be treated. I know, Lyrathes said softly. That's what makes it so powerful. Redder. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency call from Xena on the bridge. Captain, we're getting distress signals from the Kepler system. Multiple ships under attack by raiders. Marcus and Lyrathes rushed to the bridge. The tactical display showed chaos. A convoy of refugee ships being hunted by a pack of raider vessels. How long to get there? Marcus asked. 6 hours at full speed, Xena reported. The convoy won't last that long, General Kess said, studying the display. Those raiders are professional slavers. They'll capture the refugees and sell them. Marcus turned to Lyrathes. What do you think? She was already working on tactical calculations. We can't fight that many ships alone. But, she paused, her silver eyes brightening. We don't have to fight them alone. What do you mean? Send a message on all emergency frequencies. Tell every ship in the area what's happening. Tell them that a human captain is asking for help to save refugees. Why would that work? Lyrathes smiled, the first real smile Marcus had seen from her. Because your reputation precedes you now. People know you help others without asking what species they are or what's in it for you. Some of them will want to help too. Marcus gave the order. Within an hour, 7 ships had joined their small fleet. A Corvan trader with defensive weapons. 2 independent freighters, whose crews had heard about Marcus's work. Even a small galactic patrol vessel, whose captain was willing to bend some rules. When they reached the Kepler system, they found the raiders attacking refugee ships, filled with families fleeing a war zone. The raiders were experienced and well-armed, but they weren't expecting organized resistance. Lyrathes coordinated the battle from Marcus's ship. She turned their mixed fleet of salvage vessels, traders, and patrol ships into a unified fighting force. Her tactical genius, combined with the determination of crews who believed they were fighting for something important, overwhelmed the slavers. When the battle ended, 300 refugee families were safe. The raiders were either captured or running. Captain Chen, the Galactic Patrol Commander, said over the communication channel, "My superiors are going to want a full report on this. Unauthorized fleet action." Marcus looked at Lyrathes. She nodded encouragingly. "Tell your superiors," Marcus said, "that decent people helped other decent people. If that's unauthorized, maybe the authorization system needs to change." After the patrol ship left, Marcus found himself alone with Lyrathes on the observation deck. The refugee ships were safely on their way to Sanctuary. Their volunteer fleet was dispersing back to their normal routes. Everything was returning to normal. But something felt different. "You know this won't stop here," Lyrathes said quietly. "Word of what we did today will spread. More people will come to us. More situations like this will arise. Are you worried?" She was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. "I spent most of my life as a queen, commanding fleets for my people's survival. Then I spent months believing I had no purpose left." She turned to face him. "But fighting beside you today, I remembered who I used to be. Who I could be again. And who is that? Someone who protects others. Someone who leads. Someone who fights for what's right." She paused, studying his face. "Someone who found a partner worth fighting beside." Before Marcus could respond, she stepped closer. "You gave me back more than my purpose, Marcus. You gave me back myself." When she kissed him, the silver lines in her skin glowed brighter than he'd ever seen them. For a moment, the observation deck filled with soft silver light, like moonbeams made real. When they broke apart, Marcus saw something in her eyes that made his heart race. It wasn't just gratitude or friendship. It was love and hope and the promise of something wonderful growing between them. "So what happens now?" he asked softly. Lyrathes smiled and spread her healing wings wide. They weren't fully restored yet, but they were stronger than before. Strong enough to catch the starlight and reflect it back like mirrors. "Now we build something the galaxy has never seen before," she said. Together. 2 years had passed since Marcus first found Lyrathes. What had started as a small salvage operation had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. A fleet of 30 ships, crewed by beings from dozens of species, all working together as equals. The Galactic Council was not pleased. "They call themselves the Free Fleet," Counselor Vex announced to the assembled representatives of the galaxy's major powers. The tall, pale humanoid's voice carried disgust. They interfere with legitimate commerce, rescue criminals and refugees, and spread dangerous ideas about species equality. Admiral Korthak, the same alien who had originally given Lyrathes to Marcus as a gift, leaned forward in his seat. The human is the problem. These inferior species would never organize without his influence. Remove him, and they'll scatter back to their proper places. The human and his pet queen have cost us millions in lost slave labor and disrupted trade routes. Another counselor added, "This ends now." The vote was unanimous. The Free Fleet was declared an enemy of galactic stability. A battle fleet of 200 ships was assembled under Admiral Korthak's command. Their mission was simple: destroy Marcus Chen and his followers completely. Marcus received word of the approaching fleet from Ambassador Flick, who still had friends in diplomatic circles. The message was short and terrifying. The entire might of the galactic establishment was coming to crush them. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked during an emergency meeting with his senior officers. 4 days, General Kess reported. "Maybe 5 if they stop to resupply." "Options?" "Run," suggested Captain Torres, a former human smuggler who had joined them 6 months earlier. "Scatter the fleet. Everyone goes their separate ways." "Fight," growled Commander Threx, a massive, bear-like alien whose people had been enslaved before joining Marcus. "We die as free beings. There has to be a third option," Marcus said, looking around the table at faces he'd come to think of as family. Lyrathes had been quiet throughout the discussion, studying tactical displays and fleet reports. Finally, she spoke. "There is," she said quietly. "But it's dangerous, and it requires something that's never been tried before." All eyes turned to her. Over the past 2 years, her tactical genius had saved them countless times. Her strategies had turned their ragtag fleet into one of the most effective forces in the galaxy. "What do you have in mind?" Marcus asked. She stood and activated the holographic display in the center of the room. A 3-dimensional map of space appeared, showing the approach routes of Korthak's massive fleet. "They're expecting to fight rebels and outcasts," she said. "Disorganized ships with mismatched weapons and no real training. They're not expecting to face a coordinated defense." "But we are disorganized," Captain Torres pointed out. "We've got 30 ships against 200. Most of our weapons are salvaged or improvised." Lyrathes smiled. "That's exactly why this might work. They know how to fight conventional fleets. They don't know how to fight us." She began outlining her plan. It was brilliant, desperate, and completely insane. It required perfect timing, absolute trust between species that had been enemies for centuries, and tactical innovations that went against every rule of space combat. "You want to use our own weaknesses as weapons," General Kess said, with something like awe. "Turn their expectations against them." "Exactly. But it only works if every ship, every crew member, every being in our fleet trusts each other completely. We fight as one, or we die as individuals." Marcus looked around the table. These beings had come from everywhere. Former slaves, exiled nobles, refugees, criminals seeking redemption. They had nothing in common except the belief that things could be better. "All in favor?" he asked. Every hand, claw, and appendage in the room went up. The Battle of Nexus Point, as it came to be known, lasted 8 hours. Admiral Korthak's fleet arrived, expecting easy victory against desperate rebels. Instead, they found themselves facing something unprecedented in galactic history. Lyrathes commanded the defense from Marcus's flagship, her tactical genius enhanced by innovations learned from human military history and alien technologies. She had studied every species' fighting methods and combined them into something new. The Free Fleet fought like a living organism. Small ships darted between the massive council vessels like insects, striking at weak points and vanishing before return fire could target them. Larger ships appeared where the enemy least expected them, delivering devastating attacks before jumping away. Most importantly, the fleet fought with a coordination that shocked the Council forces. Beings who should have been natural enemies worked together seamlessly. Former Corvan warriors took orders from ex-Saurian generals. Refugee pilots flew alongside former pirates. The turning point came when Lyra Thess herself took to the battlefield. Her wings had finally healed completely over the past months, growing back stronger than before. Marcus had worked with their best engineers to create a personal combat suit that let her fight in space itself. She soared between the massive council ships like an avenging angel, her wings carrying her through impossible maneuvers while she directed the battle in real time. Council pilots had never faced anything like her, a being who could think like a fleet commander while moving like a fighter pilot. When Admiral Korthak's flagship found itself surrounded and crippled, he demanded to speak with Marcus personally. "You've lost, human," Korthak snarled over the communication channel. "Even if you win today, more fleets will come. The Council will never accept what you're trying to build." "Then maybe it's time for a new council," Marcus replied calmly. "You think these animals will follow you forever? They're inferior species. They belong in chains or graves." Before Marcus could respond, Lyra Thess's voice cut across the channel. She was floating in space near Korthak's bridge window, her wings spread wide and glowing with silver light. "I remember you," she said quietly. "You were there when they gave me to Marcus as a joke. You laughed when they called me broken. Well, we know Menchev Ministart. I remember. Korthak's face went pale. "You were broken. You are broken. You're still just a human's pet." "No," Lyra Thess said, her voice carrying across every ship in both fleets. "I'm his partner. He's mine. And together, we've built something you could never understand." She gestured, and the remaining council ships found themselves surrounded by the Free Fleet. But instead of destroying them, the Free Fleet simply waited. "Surrender," Marcus said. "Tell the Council that there's a new way. Tell them that beings who work together as equals are stronger than those who rule through fear." The battle ended not with destruction, but with choice. Many of the Council Fleet's crew members, seeing how the Free Fleet's diverse species fought as one, asked to join them. Admiral Korthak and his loyalists were allowed to leave with a simple message for the Council. Change was coming, whether they liked it or not. That night, as the combined fleets celebrated their victory, Marcus found Lyra Thess standing alone on the observation deck of their flagship. She was watching the stars, her wings folded peacefully behind her. "Any regrets?" he asked, joining her at the window. She turned to him, her silver eyes bright with something he'd never seen before. Not just hope, but certainty. "Only one," she said, taking his hand. "I regret that it took losing everything to find you." As they stood together, Marcus realized that the broken queen he'd found 2 years ago was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who had chosen her own path instead of accepting the one others had planned for her. She wasn't just a queen anymore. She was a leader, a partner, and the heart of something that would change the galaxy forever. 1 year after the Battle of Nexus Point, Marcus stood on the observation deck of New Haven Station, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at their new home. What had started as a desperate battle for survival had grown into something much larger. A new kind of society. New Haven floated at the crossroads of 3 major trade routes, built from salvaged materials and powered by the dreams of beings who had found hope in the darkest places. The station housed 50,000 residents representing over 100 species. They worked together, raised families together, and built something the galaxy had never seen. True equality. Lyra Thess found him there, as she often did when he needed time to think. Her wings were fully healed now, stronger and more beautiful than they had ever been. The silver lines in her skin glowed softly with contentment. "The Council delegation arrives in an hour," she said, settling beside him. Marcus nodded. After a year of internal struggles and system-wide rebellions, Inspired by the Free Fleet's example, the Galactic Council had finally agreed to negotiate. They wanted to end the conflict that was tearing their empire apart. "Are you ready for this?" Lyrathess asked. "I think so." "Are you?" She was quiet for a moment, watching a ship full of refugees dock safely at their station. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. My people were gone, my kingdom was ash, and I was nothing more than a broken trophy passed between traders. And now?" She smiled. "Now, I'm exactly who I choose to be." The council delegation arrived precisely on time, led by Councillor Vex, and including representatives from all the major galactic powers. They expected to meet with Marcus in some kind of throne room, to negotiate with him as one ruler to another. Instead, they were brought to New Haven's Central Plaza, a vast open space where beings of all species lived and worked together. Children played in parks, designed for different types of biology. Markets sold goods from worlds across the galaxy. Artists from different cultures created beauty together. Marcus and Lyrathess waited for them at a simple table in the middle of it all. "Where is your palace?" Councillor Vex asked, looking around in confusion. "Your seat of power?" "This is it," Marcus said, gesturing to the bustling plaza around them. "But who rules? Who makes the decisions?" "We all do," Lyrathess answered. "Together." The negotiations lasted 3 days. The council offered Marcus titles, wealth, even a seat on their ruling body, if he would just stop spreading his dangerous ideas about equality. He refused everything. On the final day, Councillor Vex made one last offer. "We'll give her back her crown," he said, pointing at Lyrathess. "Make her a recognized queen. Again, all you have to do is accept our authority over the outer systems." The plaza fell silent. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen. Lyrathess stood slowly. For a moment, Marcus saw a flicker of the broken woman he had found 3 years ago. Then her silver lines blazed with light, and she spread her magnificent wings wide. "I was born a queen," she said, her voice carrying across the plaza and broadcasting to every ship and station that had joined their cause. "I ruled by birthright, commanded by blood, and led because my species said I should." She walked to the center of the plaza, where a small, raised platform allowed everyone to see her. "But this human taught me that titles mean nothing. Crowns are just metal and jewels. True leadership comes from choice, not birth. True worth comes from what you do, not what you are." She looked directly at Councillor Vex. "So keep your crown. I don't need it to lead. I don't need royal blood to matter. I am who I choose to be, and I choose to be someone who builds instead of rules, who serves instead of commands." The crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard throughout the station. Beings from 100 worlds applauded not a queen, but a leader who had chosen her path. Councillor Vex looked stunned. "You're refusing to be royalty?" "I'm refusing to be anything other than myself," Lyrathess replied. "And myself is someone who believes that all beings deserve the chance to rise as high as their choices can take them." The council delegation left empty-handed, but the message was clear. The old ways of rule by birth and species hierarchy were ending. A new age was beginning, built on the simple human idea that everyone deserved respect and the chance to be their best selves. That evening, Marcus and Lyrathess walked through the quieter sections of New Haven. They passed workshops where former enemies worked together to build new technologies. They saw schools where children of different species learned from each other. They watched as beings who had once been slaves or outcasts now lived as free citizens. "Do you ever miss it?" Marcus asked. "Being a queen?" Lyrathess considered this. "I miss my people. I miss my homeworld, but I don't miss the loneliness of command or the weight of a crown that I never chose to wear." They stopped at a memorial wall dedicated to all the worlds and peoples lost to war and hatred. Lyrathess placed her hand on a section carved with Zephyrian symbols. The names of her people. Gone but not forgotten, They would be proud of what you've built here, Marcus said softly. What we've built, she corrected. This isn't my kingdom or your empire. This belongs to everyone who chooses to make it home. As they stood together in the memorial garden, surrounded by the gentle hum of a thriving community, Marcus realized how far they had all come. He thought about the broken woman he had found in his cargo bay, the one his crew had given him as a joke. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone who had chosen her own destiny and helped thousands of others do the same. You know, Marcus said thoughtfully, when I first met you, I thought I was giving you a second chance. Lyrathus smiled and took his hand. You did. But more than that, you showed me that I was never really broken. I was just waiting to remember how to fly. She spread her wings and lifted gently into the air, pulling him up with her, using the station's carefully controlled artificial gravity. They rose together above the memorial garden, above the bustling plaza, above all the lives they had touched and changed. Looking down at New Haven, Marcus saw the future. Not a galaxy ruled by the strong or the well-born, but a community of beings who had chosen to build something better together. You didn't raise me higher than anyone, Marcus, Lyrathus said as they floated among the stars visible through the station's transparent dome. You showed me I was already flying. I just needed to spread my wings. Lyra. Below them, New Haven sparkled with the lights of 100 worlds and the dreams of beings who had learned that home wasn't a place you were born, but a place you chose to build with the people you loved. And in the years that followed, as their movement spread to every corner of the galaxy, beings everywhere would learn the simple truth that a human salvage captain and a fallen Zephyrian queen had discovered together that everyone, no matter how broken they might seem, deserves the chance to rise as high as their courage can carry them.